You're listening to season 2 of the So Cultured podcast,
where we delve into the science and tech behind everyday topics,
served with a side of piping hot laboratory.
We're your hosts, Liv,
Yaz,
and Taz,
3 girls with a passion for science and tech.
Before we get into today's episode, remember that all opinions are our own and all our listener stories are alleged.
We hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and let's get into it.
Just watch me break it, you'll swear. You're falling into me, touch me, I swear. You would do anything that I want to keep us away till the dawn.
Hello everyone and welcome back to So Cultured Podcast. We are on our penultimate episode, and the reason we're laughing, guys, we don't usually start a podcast like this, but we were talking about how we first met up in person, and I don't know if you guys would know this, but we've only met up like 2 or 3 times outside, like
In
so
real
yeah,
life.
this is like a real like long distance friendship that we've got going on. But we were just talking about when we met up in London a few times and how we were like 2 bottles of wine down, and then we were just like, we need cigarettes.
We were like actual nitties, like we need it. We got menthol infused ones, and we were like, what are we doing? We went to a bougie, like a proper bougie restaurant, or like rooftop, wasn't it? A bougie rooftop.
It's the
And then
way
we
like
ran
we
out.
all, it's the way we all left our stuff there and we ran out to get cigarettes. Like we were literally 12. Like,
Sorry, who even smokes cigarettes anymore?
I'm sorry if anyone smokes cigarettes. We're not laughing.
Oh.
We're just talking about like vaping versus smoking, and then we just started cracking up. It's just funny because it's us 3. Like we just, some people just don't suit it. Like us 3 do not suit it whatsoever.
But it's the fact that we were like so drunk that we were like, oh, it'd be a good idea to go and get cigarettes, or like I think we were like, let's go get fags, and like even
I can't
just the
remember what one
fags-
of you it was, but I just remember one of you like actually dying after like one puff.
Oh, it was disgusting.
It was
'cause I liked the Click menthols back in the day, and you got that sheet of like to
Right,
infuse
yeah.
the
So,
menthol.
no, this is when, because they stopped doing menthol cigarettes, didn't they? So you used to get the
Yeah.
little sheets that you would put in the cigarette
And it was
packet.
the
So we got
worst
them, and Yaz was like
experience.
dying. Why did we do that?
Oh, that was so bad.
Oh,
It's safe to say I haven't smoked a cigarette since that day.
well, I have, but I feel like it's so funny because we obviously met each other and we're all quite like nervous to meet up, and then we like a few wines down, and then I feel like our roots came out of us, and we were like, we are the same galleys. Let's go get stickies. Oh, we've come so far.
Think.
Look at us now.
We
I
have.
know. We haven't seen each other in 2 years in person, but we speak
That's
every single
mad.
day.
Literally, when I see you guys in person, I'm gonna be like, "What the hell? Like, you're actually 3D. This is weird." Like,
Yeah, I remember, guys. I remember when I met these two in.
Are we gonna hug each other?
Yeah.
I'm not really a hugger.
Oh my god, I'm such a hugger.
I'd be
I'm
like,
like, hi.
like tapping.
I can't see me and Yaz would probably just like wave.
Oh my god, I'm such a hugger. I feel like I would just hug Yaz anyway. Like, anyway, right, let's get on with the episode. I feel like we've gone on such a tangent, but guys, we were just talking about season 3 because we're forward thinkers. I'm going to be back in August in the UK,
Yay.
so we're gonna like bulk
So
record some
excited.
stuff. So that's kind of why we were talking about London and stuff, because obviously we're going to meet up. But yeah, we've got a really exciting idea for season 3. Obviously, we're on episode 7, our penultimate episode of season 2. So we are super excited for season 3 because we're going to be mixing it up with a different theme.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are so excited for you guys to keep listening, I guess.
Yeah, I'm also so excited for season 3 because, like, as much as I love the theme for this season, I feel like I'm going to say this every season, but now that we've got our theme figured out for season 3, like, I am so excited for it.
Yeah.
But before we get into the science stuff, I feel like we've been talking for a little bit about cigarettes and wine and all of this. Before we move on to today's science topics, of course, I have to ask you guys my question of the episode. And
Yay.
my question is, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Potato.
Really? Oh, versatile. Chips, jackets.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
versatile.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good choice.
That
But then you
is
don't get
a
any
good
protein.
Like if we're talking like one specific food, like one like vegetable or something, then I think for me it would be potato, because like chips, jack potato, like
Yeah, but then you've got to have a
so many
plain jacket
different
potato.
options. Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
but the question is one piece of food. Like do you know what I mean? Like it's
No,
gonna
you can
be
pick a meal. You
boring.
can pick a meal.
Taz's will be roast.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Although I
Yeah.
can't imagine having that for breakfast.
Mine would be steak. 100%. Steak's like my
Steak, I
favourite
do like
dinner.
steak.
I look forward to it every week.
Of course, Liv, you would love steak because you're growing those muscles. Like, I swear steak is like the perfect meal for that. Like, it's lean, not too much fat, perfect for growing those biceps.
I feel like you guys think I'm like more of a gym freak than I am. Or maybe I underestimate it. I don't know. You know, when you
Yeah, you
so...
definitely
You
underestimate
are a
it.
gym freak.
Anyway, speaking of muscles and growing muscles, that is actually the topic of today's episode. So let's get into the science behind muscle
Ooh.
growth and fitness.
I wanna make it sweat on me.
So to grow your glutes, you need to do 4 sets of heavy hip thrust. You need to eat at least 70 grams of protein a day. And do not do cardio if you want to grow your quads. We've all seen these videos while scrolling social media, right?
Oh,
But scroll again
Mhm.
and you'll be told that heavy hip thrust won't help you get a fat ass and that you need to do cardio at least 3 times a week.
yeah.
And actually, all of it is pointless if you don't take your vitamins and supplements. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick of seeing all of this different advice. It's so overwhelming. So today, we are going to take a breather from the noise and we're going to dive into the science behind fitness, muscle growth, and nutrition.
Oh my god, yeah. Like I find it so confusing knowing what to do. Like if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I've started to get into the gym, but I literally read so many conflicting things and I have no idea what I'm actually meant to do, especially when
I've sent you my workouts.
Yeah, but
Well, I've only sent you a
I
leg
even-
workout, actually.
Exactly. And I always wonder whether I should pay for this new plan that I've seen someone advertising. Then I'm like so close to
Yeah.
doing it. And then I'm like, nah, there's so many free resources out there. It's just
Yeah.
putting it all together. But like, do I need to eat more? Do I need to eat less? But then sometimes I just still eat what I'm eating. And then it's not helping in the gym because I'm not like, I need to be in a calorie deficit or I don't. Like, am I bulking? Am I not? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and I feel like so much of it is like overcomplicated. I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about it today, but especially in terms of what you were saying, Yaz, about like calorie deficits and like how to lose weight and stuff. Like ultimately it's actually very simple, but I feel like it seems so complicated when you see all of these videos on TikTok and Instagram, like any social media in general. So I mentioned we're talking about the science behind fitness and nutrition. So fitness and nutrition, as we all know, they are like the dynamic duo of well-being. So they work together to keep us feeling great and also performing at our best. So on the fitness side, we're going to be talking about understanding how our bodies respond to exercise, the types of workouts that might suit us best, and the importance of giving our muscles the TLC that they need to recover and grow stronger, because rest is very important. Then on the other hand, because I'm going to assume that you guys and most of the listeners do not want me to talk about what carbs are and how carbs work, because I think most of us learned that in primary school. So instead, we're going to cover the crazy world of supplements, from creatine to protein powder, and we're going to talk about how and if they actually work.
Yeah, I'm actually so excited for this because you girls know I'm a bit lanky and I've actually always struggled to put muscle on. So it'd be so interesting to find out, I guess, like muscle growth, how it works, and maybe if there is supplements that I could take to help it or that you would recommend based on the science. So yeah, I'm so excited for this episode.
All right, let's dive into understanding muscle growth first, and as you've just mentioned that. So before we begin, I want to emphasize that even if you're not aiming for bigger biceps or a fat ass, this discussion is relevant because in general, increasing lean body mass can have numerous benefits. So like if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm not interested in the gym or whatever, like this is still relevant. It's still like interesting in biology. So don't tune out, basically. So let's rewind it back and talk about muscles. Specifically, we're going to be talking about skeletal muscle, which is one of the three types of muscle tissue in the body, alongside cardiac and smooth muscle. So skeletal muscle is attached to our bones by tendons. The muscle itself is composed of long cylindrical cells called muscle fibers, each of which is a single cell which contains multiple nuclei. And within these muscle fibers are rod-like units called myofibrils. You might remember learning about these in like your biology classes in school. And these myofibrils are made up of repeating sections known as sarcomeres. So sarcomeres are the functional units of muscle contraction, and they consist of thin actin and thick myosin filaments whose interaction allows muscles to actually contract.
Oh yeah, I think I actually do remember that from school. I feel like that was years ago, so I'm surprised. Don't really remember too much about it, but I think, aren't there two types of muscle fibers?
Yeah, exactly. There are two types. So you've got slow twitch, also known as type 1 fibers, and then also fast twitch, which are also known as type 2 fibers. So slow twitch fibers are characterized by high endurance and resistance to fatigue, which basically makes them ideal for activities like marathon running. So basically like long periods of exercise.
Yeah, I ain't got that.
Yeah,
Me neither.
that's my
No
problem.
way.
I've got too much of that and not the other
Well,
one.
we'll delve more into this in a second. The other one is fast twitch fibers, which generate quick and powerful contractions, but they fatigue a lot quicker, and they're suited for activities requiring like short bursts of strength. So this will be things like sprinting or like powerlifting, for example.
So I haven't got any of them.
No, of course you do. You've got some of them. So now that we've covered the basics of skeletal muscle structure and function, let's delve into how this knowledge actually translates into practical outcomes, particularly for those people like you, Yaz, who are on their fitness journey. So as we discussed earlier, skeletal muscles are composed of muscle fibers, and these fibers respond to signals from our nervous system. But improving your ability to transmit these signals is actually what enhances muscle strength. And I actually didn't know this, so I thought this was really interesting.
What?
So essentially, consistent training actually improves muscle recruitment, which leads to what's commonly known as beginner gains. Do you guys know what beginner gains are? Have you heard the term beginner gains?
Is that when you like see a lot more of your gains quicker, or no, you just slower? I don't know.
Do you know, Taz?
I've heard the term in terms of like when you're starting out your fitness journey, you see changes like way quicker, and then it kind of plateaus.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically like you said, when someone starts the gym, or not even necessarily the gym, but like a new exercise, you will see like rapid changes in your strength and maybe even your appearance. And that is what we call beginner gains. It occurs because your body is adapting to the new stimulus of exercise, and the neural pathways that I just mentioned that are responsible for muscle recruitment essentially become more efficient. So your nervous system basically becomes better at actually signaling your muscles to contract, which leads to notable increases in strength. During this initial phase, your muscles experience hypertrophy or an increase in size. But then, like you said, Taz, it will kind of like taper off. So I remember when I first started the gym, all of a sudden, I'm pretty sure that I'm like upper body dominant. You know how people say like you're upper body dominant or your lower body? I'm 100% upper body dominant, because straight away, like I saw like my upper body changed so much when I first started the gym.
Yeah.
But my legs have never changed. So that sucks.
Yeah, to be fair, like I would say my upper body strength isn't that great, but like I don't really train it anyway. But I would say that my upper body is where I notice the differences quicker. Like as soon as I start training, like I definitely see changes in my biceps, and I have quite broad shoulders from all my time swimming. So I feel like that's where the muscle tends to go, and then I
Mate,
stay
my
with
shoulders are fucking huge. I hate it.
Yeah,
they're
mine
actually
are
huge.
Yeah, I mean mine are like just really broad. They're not muscly, they're just so broad from like years of swimming. But you obviously mentioned this like increase in muscle size or hypertrophy. So how does that actually happen? Like, what's the science behind that?
So when you lift weights, especially heavy ones, essentially it causes micro tears in your muscle fibers, which might kind of sound like a bit counterintuitive, but it is a fundamental part of building muscle, because after a workout session, your body initiates a cellular process to repair or replace damaged muscle fibers, which actually leads to them becoming stronger and larger in the process. So this process involves basically fusing muscle fibers together to form new strands of muscle protein known as myofibrils. I mentioned those earlier. And these repaired myofibrils increase in both thickness and also number. And that's what leads to muscle hypertrophy or muscle growth. Now, in order for muscle growth to occur, the rate of muscle protein synthesis must exceed the rate of muscle protein breakdown. We'll touch a little bit more on that later, but that's why protein is important. And interestingly, this adaptation doesn't happen during the actual lifting of the weight. So your muscles don't grow while you're actually lifting the weights, but it happens during your rest periods.
Okay.
I did have like some kind of idea that
That was
what? I did have some kind of idea that like you have to like break down the muscle, but I never knew how it then built up. And it's really interesting that you said about the ratio between like muscle tearing and muscle synthesis, because I think that's a really good important point. Because in my head, as you were like before you said that, I was thinking, oh, so if you do a really hard workout and just rip your muscles to shred, would you build muscles quicker? So like, I guess my main question is, does your muscles just get used to it after a while? And like, how do you ensure that they keep growing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, they can get used to it. Basically, your muscles can get used to like lifting a certain way or whatever. But there are ways to keep them growing, to make sure that your muscles keep growing. So firstly, you need to stress them more than before. So this comes back to, have you guys heard of something called progressive overload? Yeah? No. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
so,
you do not look
let's
sure.
say no.
She's like, not sure.
I'm not.
Okay, so I'll
I
tell
feel
you
like I
about
should because I'm like trying to be a gym girl, but I'm not.
Or it's fine, like maybe you've heard about progressive overload, but you don't really get what it is, because you will sometimes hear these TikTokers saying like, oh, you need to do progressive overload, but like what actually is progressive overload and how does it actually help? So like I said earlier, well, progressive overload will basically make chemical changes in the muscles that actually helps them grow. So it also improves how muscles connect to nerve cells. So, you know, earlier I was talking about how that leads to like better muscle recruitment, and that actually helps you like lift more. It helps your muscles grow. So progressive overload also improves that kind of like circuit as well. And that is the concept known as progressive overload. So basically what it is, they say that what you should do is, say, for example, you're doing, let's talk about like squats, for example. And you know how people will say, oh, you should do 8 to 12 reps. So the idea is that you would pick a weight that you're comfortable with. Maybe it's like 40 kilograms. And you should do 40 kilograms until you can get in between 8 to 12 reps easily. Once you can get 8 to 12 reps, you should then
do a higher
up the weight. Yeah. And then like you keep going. And that's how obviously you get to the point where you're squatting like 100, 180. I don't know. I definitely can't, but that's how people get there. It's through progressive overload, because that's how you ensure that your muscles keep growing and your muscles don't get used to the exercises that you're doing all the time. I mean, that's why you have to keep on upping your weight, right?
That makes sense.
Okay, also, if you feel sore after a workout, that also means you've damaged your muscles a bit. And this damage releases things that help muscles repair and grow. So while soreness is a sign of this, it's the muscle damage that matters for growth. So it's not like you should only think that your exercise, like your workout was good enough if you feel sore the next day. Like that's not necessarily true. But actually your muscles feeling sore is a sign that that's going to lead, like, well, that is going to lead to muscle growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that I can do that you were mentioning before, is that in order for you to see that like muscles to grow, you need to rest. And I feel like I take a lot of rest days.
Mhm.
So why is that? Like, what actually is the process that happens during the rest days that help you build this muscle?
Yeah, so muscles need rest to grow because the anabolic process, which is essentially the process of like building and repairing these muscle fibers, it requires adequate rest and nutrition because, like I said, this is actually the period where that repairing actually occurs. So without rest and without good nutrition, the body can slip into what we call a catabolic state, which essentially means that it actually starts breaking down muscle instead of building it up. And actually, I also read, which scared me massively, was that they did, I'm saying they, but I don't know who did this study. I just saw it. And it was a legit study, but I can't remember who it was. I'll try and find it and link it. But it was a study that looked into people who work like at their desk. And apparently, if you are someone who works in an office or you work at your desk, you are more likely to actually be at like a very high risk of losing muscle because of this. So your body slips into a catabolic state and it breaks down the muscles instead of building it up during these rest periods, which scared the life out of me.
What? That's
Because I was
crazy.
like, oh my God, I need to get up. Yeah, so basically if you work in an office or you work at a desk, you need to make sure that you're like, this is why I need to use my standing desk. You need to make sure you're getting up and like moving around often.
Oh my gosh.
So that scared me.
Well, I'm screwed.
And on top of that as well, like obviously factors like gender, age, and genetics can also influence muscle growth. For instance, like men obviously have an easier time building bigger muscles due to the fact that they have naturally high levels of testosterone, which we know also helps in building muscle, which is why I guess some men and some women take like steroids. I don't think women take. Do you think there's any women who take test? I don't know. Isn't test like the worst steroid to take? Like really bad side effects? Or is that trend?
I have no idea. I don't really know the difference between steroids, but there's definitely women that take like, I don't know, testosterone
It's
like
called Anavar.
steroids.
It's called
Yeah,
Anavar.
because
That
they
is,
get
like
like
the
deeper
female
voices and stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Some girl in my gym, she told me that she took Anavar and I was so close to taking it, like no joke, because she was like telling me how strong it made her. Like she was like benching like 35 single dumbbells. So like she was benching like 70 kg and she's like my height. And I was like, nah, that's actually mental.
Wow.
I was kind of tempted. Obviously I didn't because I was scared that I was going to get a really deep voice or like grow hair and then everyone would know.
Well,
that
you lose the hair on your head, don't you?
Yeah, but then
Do you?
And I think it
Yeah,
has
that's why, like,
effects
a lot
like
of-
down there as well.
yeah, it does.
I've
Oh,
heard.
yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad.
Gives
One of
you a little.
my
What?
yeah, it shrinks you up a bit.
What?
Yeah, did you not know that? Isn't it more your though?
Oh,
not...
men. Yeah,
oh,
but
sorry.
I thought you were about women.
Yeah, but now I think
No.
we're talking about men now.
No. I'm
does it affect
talking
women?
about yeah.
Wait,
Gives women.
Yeah.
wait, gives women what?
Like a little.
Oh, okay, I get you. Oh, I mean, I would say that's probably that's probably from like very prolonged chronic use of like
Yeah, not
strong
straight away.
testosterone. Yeah,
Yeah.
imagine me like I'm on Anavar girls, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, but there's like women who have naturally higher testosterone, right? I know there's like this sprinter who is like super fast, and like loads of people said to her that she's clearly taking steroids because she kind of has like quite masculine features, and she's obviously really fast. So like a lot of people like she needs to be tested, but I think it like turned out that she just had really high levels of testosterone.
And I feel like on that topic as well, like, you know how sometimes you might see someone who's just like naturally really fit and you think like, oh, is it that they just have good genetics? Like, does that
yeah.
actually play a part in this factor?
Yeah.
Or does this actually play a part?
Yeah, I almost feel sorry for those people, like when they are literally like absolutely ripped, you can tell they've put in so much hard work, and then people are just like, oh, it's just genetics. But it is true that genetics can play a role in determining like if someone is able to build muscle more quickly than someone else. So factors such as muscle fiber composition, so like these fast twitch fibers, slow twitch fibers, like how many of those you have contributes to this discussion. Also hormone levels, like we've just mentioned, your metabolism, and also muscle recovery rate. All of these things can be influenced by genetics. So yeah, like I just said, some people may naturally have a higher proportion of fast twitch muscle fibers, which facilitates muscle growth and also explosive strengths. This might be like powerlifting or whatever. Other people might have genetic variations that affect hormone levels, such as, like you've just mentioned, high testosterone levels, which can enhance muscle protein synthesis and muscle growth.
Just a quick one then. If it's to do with like hormone levels, if you're a female that's on a contraceptive like pill or implant or something, and you've got like more estrogen or well, I don't know what else you can have on those. Can that also affect it, or is it mainly just like levels of testosterone that affect muscle growth?
That's a really good question. So there must be some studies looking at female hormones, because like I know that male hormones like testosterone are beneficial for muscle growth, but does that necessarily mean that female hormones like estrogen and progesterone are like, you'd have to have
like inhibit it, or
I don't know. That's a really good question.
I think the problem with like women's hormones is that they fluctuate so much. Like men, it's a 24-hour cycle, right? Whereas women,
oh my gosh, I've been seeing them TikToks
like
actually of like women in the gym, and it's like every week.
I feel like I've always thought that the time leading up to when you're ovulating is when you're strongest, because you've got much higher levels of progesterone and estrogen, and you just feel overall better and more energized. So I feel like it's actually the fluctuation of these hormones that negatively affect. So maybe, I don't know what the pill would do.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually like directly affects muscle growth, or if, like you said, if it's more, it affects your energy and therefore your ability to actually perform as well, like when you're lifting or when you're working out. I don't know. I worry about that a lot. I think I'm actually going to be on my period for my performance, my pole performance. So I love that for me.
So annoying.
I know, like I'm actually dreading it. So yeah, I love that. That actually makes me want to cry. But I'm going to tell you about like one or two genes in just a second. But what I also found really interesting is that your genetics can also determine what method of working out can actually be most beneficial for you too. So for example, like it can help you, and I'll tell you how it can help you in just a second, but it can help you like knowing about your genetics to know if you would benefit more from doing supersets or cluster sets in the gym. So you know how people are like, superset Bulgarian split squats with this. Supersetting is basically where you don't take a rest between like two different exercises. You know, like for example, if you're doing like a leg day, it would be like, I'm going to do squats, I'm going to do RDLs, I'm going to do hip thrusts. But a superset would be, I'm going to do 8 reps of hip thrust and I'm going to go straight into Bulgarian split squats, no rest in between them. That's what supersetting is. And then cluster sets is where you do, like, for example, 8 reps and then you take a break, right? So your so your genetics can actually play a part in like not deciding, but your genetic plays a part in which of those is going to be more beneficial for you. And again, muscle fiber composition plays a crucial role here. So if you've got more fast twitch muscle fibers, because they're better at generating force and power, but they fatigue more quickly compared to slow twitch fibers, which obviously have a greater endurance, you're basically more likely to respond better to cluster sets, because you have like a better ability to handle heavier loads and shorter rest periods, which would basically lead to greater strength gains for you personally. Equally, the effectiveness of supersets can also be influenced by genetic factors. Another really interesting thing about supersets, because we're talking about, like, you asked about genetic factors, doing supersets can also result in an increase in metabolic stress, which is caused by a buildup of metabolites such as lactate and hydrogen ions. And this increase in metabolic stress can promote hypertrophic signaling, which aids muscle growth. And there's actually a gene variant called MCT1 that influences how quickly you clear lactate. And for those that clear lactate more quickly than others, using the superset method will allow you to basically gain the hypertrophic benefits of lactate accumulation. So basically, if you have this particular gene variant, you know that basically you should do supersets because you can clear the lactate more quickly.
Oh, I feel like I'm learning so much, but do we know any other like gene variants or that might lead to like fitness or muscle growth?
Yeah, so there's like tons of different gene variants that have been linked to like muscle growth or fitness in some capacity. But the biggest one that we should talk about is this gene called ACTN3, which is a gene variant that basically so many studies that have looked into like the best athletes, the best powerlifters, and like everything like that. I'm talking in the world. Apparently, they all have like this one gene variant in the gene called ACTN3, which again is related to muscle composition, and it plays a role in muscle function, particularly in the fast twitch muscle fibers, which, if you remember, they're responsible for explosive movements like sprinting or weightlifting. So there are two common variants of this gene. We've got the R allele, which is associated with the production of alpha actinin free protein in fast twitch muscle fibers. And then you've also got the X allele, which is associated with basically the lack of this protein. So people with the RR genotype, so who have two copies of that beneficial R allele, have better muscle performance and strength, making them potentially better at activities requiring bursts of power, like powerlifting or like sprinting. And then people, on the other hand, who have the XX genotype, so they have two copies of the X allele, which is basically like not the non-functional, but like the non-beneficial one. They have slightly reduced muscle performance in activities requiring explosive strengths, which can also mean you're more prone to muscle damage as well. So it's good to know if you have these variants, because then you know like maybe you need to consume, for example, more protein, or maybe even some more like BCAAs to actually help with your muscle recoveries, to kind of like counteract the fact that you're more prone to muscle damage.
So you just mentioned BCAAs. What actually is that? I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, so obviously I should start by saying that personally, I think supplements are pointless if you're not exercising frequently and exercising hard. And also if you're not eating a balanced diet too. Like there's no point in drinking a protein shake if you don't exercise, or you don't, like, you just eat McDonald's all day. Not that there's nothing wrong with McDonald's. I love McDonald's, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, let's break down a few like popular supplements. So let's start with creatine, which is actually one of the most researched and most effective supplements for increasing strength and muscle mass. And if you're going to the gym, I would 100% recommend creatine. I think it's like the best supplement you could possibly take. So creatine is a naturally occurring compound in the body, primarily found in skeletal muscle, and it plays a crucial role in energy production during high intensity activities like weightlifting and sprinting. So when you engage in this, like any type of exercise really, creatine is converted into phosphocreatine, which helps regenerate ATP, which is the primary energy currency of our cells. And this process enables your muscles to sustain short bursts of intense effort. So when you supplement with creatine, you increase the availability of phosphocreatine in your muscles, which enhances their ability to produce energy rapidly, which can lead to improved strength, power, and muscle endurance during your workouts. Another thing is, if you've ever heard someone talk about creatine, they'll always tell you that you have to drink a load of water. Like there's no point taking creatine if you don't drink a load of water. So creatine supplementation can increase the water content within muscle cells, which leads to a process known as cell volumization. And that actually results in a temporary increase in muscle size, which gives them a fuller and more pumped appearance. So if you've ever seen TikToks where people are like before and after taking creatine, and then in the after they look absolutely jacked, it does actually increase like your muscle like size, or it does actually increase like strength and all of that. But because it actually also leads to like this almost like swelling in your cells, it makes your muscles actually look bigger as well, which is why people love creatine. So if there's one I recommend, it is creatine, but you have to be very, very consistent with it. Like, you have to take it every single day.
So maybe do you think you'd recommend it for me? I'm really inconsistent with the gym. You know, today I went to the pub instead of to the gym. So I'm not sure.
I think
maybe it's like you say, you have to be really consistent.
Yeah, and also
with
you
it.
don't have to go to the gym like 5 days a week. Like, most people don't do that. Like, and that's fine. If you go like 3
True,
days a
I've only
week
been
and
twice
take
this week.
creatine, but it's just you have to remember to take the creatine every single day.
Yeah, I might invest as well, actually, if I start going a bit more regularly. But I've also got so much protein powder in my cupboard that I just haven't used up. Would you think that's beneficial? Do you think I should start taking that again?
Yeah, so let's move to protein powder. So as we all know, protein is essential for muscle repair and growth, especially after intense workouts. And this is because protein serves as the essential building blocks for reconstructing and strengthening muscle tissue. So earlier I told you about how the process of muscle building involves making these kind of like micro tears in your muscle fibers, and these muscles require repair for adaptation and making gains, guys. They're also like protein in general is just a convenient way to protein shakes are just a convenient way to get in extra protein, right? But ultimately, I don't really think for most people it's actually worth it, because you could probably get most of your protein intake from your diet. But I guess like if you're a veggie or vegan, or maybe you just don't like eating meat, they could be like convenient and useful. But like ultimately, unless you're like a bodybuilder and you're trying to hit like very specific macros for like your protein, like you have a very specific protein goal, I think protein powder is gross, and I'd rather just eat a steak. Not gonna lie.
So we mentioned earlier BCAAs. What are those? Do they have any benefit? Because I need all the help.
Yeah, so BCAAs stand for branch chain amino acids, which are basically a group of essential amino acids which are, yeah, you guessed it, they're required for muscle protein synthesis and energy production. So the three BCAAs, or the three like amino acids, are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And essential amino acids are those that the body actually cannot produce on its own, so you get them like purely through your diet. But BCAAs are unique among amino acids because they're actually metabolized directly in the muscles instead of in the liver, which makes them available for energy production and protein synthesis during exercise. And they are basically popular for several reasons. So firstly, they help with muscle growth, particularly it's leucine that actually helps with muscle growth because it stimulates muscle protein synthesis, which, as we've learned, is needed for muscle repair and growth. They also help reduce muscle soreness, and like I said, they're a great energy source, and they also help with the prevention of muscle breakdown. So maybe I should be taking some BCAAs because I sit at my desk all day. But yeah, you can get most of them for your diet. Again, they could be found in like protein-rich foods like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, dairy products, and all of that good stuff. But in summary, I think that supplements like creatine, protein powder, and BCAAs can be really valuable tools for supporting fitness goals, but they're not like some magic pill. So like obviously you need consistent training, proper nutrition, and adequate rest to get the most out of your muscles, basically.
Yeah, I feel like it clears up a lot of confusion around supplements and like when you should take stuff, if you should take stuff. I really like that summary because I feel like bottom line is let's sort out the diet first, and then if we want to get even more extreme and build even more extreme muscles, then maybe we can consider these like protein powders and stuff. But yeah, I love that. Thanks for that, Liv.
No worries.
If you guys would like to find out anything else about this topic that we've spoken about today, everything will be linked in the description below.
Yeah, and that takes us nicely onto our laboratory section where we have another listener story for you guys. So let's get into it.
But I'm worth it, 'cause I'll slip into your dreams tonight. So give me your heart. I'll take it tonight. I'll stick like glue inside your mind.
Right, girls, we have another email in our inbox from one of the listeners that have written in with their laboratory. So shall I dive straight into what this email says?
Yes, I absolutely love just like honestly, when our little Gmail notification comes up, I'm like, yes, we've got some new gossip. So yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely love it. Okay, so it says, hello guys, I just want to say that I absolutely love your podcast and it keeps me sane while I'm doing really repetitive lab
thanks.
work. I know, so nice. So I can't be too specific because a colleague from my lab could
Okay.
figure out exactly who I am if they listen to the podcast, and I don't want to get in trouble. I'd really like some advice on this too because it's majorly changing the course of my project. So,
Ooh,
an
okay.
introduction. I work with certain species of crops and I'm interested in some root behaviors. I use a piece of software that is meant to analyze these root aspects. However, it's over 10 years old and it is running on new Windows, so it really can't cope at all, which means I can't get any of the measurements that I need to. Now, this is not a new issue because allegedly a paper was published using this software. It may have grossly inaccurate data because of these glitches and issues. I don't know if this is 100% true. And a lab colleague has been trying to fix this problem for, I think, around 2 years now to no avail. The problem is that the head of the lab won't purchase the newest version of the software because it is quite expensive. Although I think it would be a great investment because so many of us use it and no one can bring it up because they allegedly had a shouting match with someone who did try to get them to buy the new version. Plus, I'd also like to add that because of these issues, it takes around 20 minutes to analyze one sample, and I have over 500 that needs doing. So that is approximately 167 hours that I do not have. And I don't have the time to try and fix whatever is bugging it. Haha, get it? Bugging it? Anyway, please help. So this, I guess, is not such juicy laboratory, but I actually will probably help them with their project. So
Nah, I've
girls,
got the
what-
solution.
Okay.
So in last week's episode, if you haven't listened yet, we was doing a what would you do if, and I asked the girls like, what would you do if? Well, someone asked us actually. Sorry, what would you do if you broke the most expensive thing in the lab? Anyway, why don't you just accidentally / not
on
accidentally
purpose.
break it, and then like they have to buy a new one? Because can't lie, like that's probably what I would do is like I would or sabotage the machine somehow so like it actually breaks, or maybe like get some really bad results and then go to your PI and be like, hey look, like this is producing like unusable results, like now we actually need to solve this issue. I can't lie, get in a shouting match with me, like I will shout at you as well, because like it's just you can't work like that. Like you physically cannot do 167 hours to get like all of your samples done. No, like I'll be the one doing the shouting. Actually, I don't care.
Yeah, but I think it's not actually a piece of equipment; it's a software. So I'm assuming the software
But
might
the
run on a computer.
So the software. Oh, so it's not a piece of equipment. I thought it was like the software in the equipment needed updating.
True, I don't know. So it could be that you analyze
Because you know how they
it
normally come on
using
like a
software.
CD or something.
No, it did say that they're using it on a new Windows, so I think they're just using it on a computer. But the software's 10 years old, so like it's not compatible, but they don't want to pay for the license because it's expensive, and they're probably like, well, we already have this software, so just make do.
Can we also like rewind a second, because I swear she said that she thinks that there's a paper that's been put out there that is like grossly inaccurate results because of this like faulty software. So it's like that in itself, it's like red flag.
Yeah, like if you continue using this software and publishing that work, like it's not legit.
But then I'm assuming her PI is also aware of this paper, right? I mean, if not, then obviously you bring it to their attention.
Yeah.
But if they are already aware of it and it doesn't change their mind, then like what do you do?
This is such a common theme in labs where like there's this one software that they don't want to pay for, and it's like on this old ass computer because it can only run on that, and it's just like so painful.
We have that.
Yeah, we have it as well.
Deal with that. Like I would not deal with that.
We have one in a microscope room, which is like, we call it the dungeon because it's in the basement, so there's no windows and you're just in
Oh
the
my god,
dark.
my
And
PhD room was called the dungeon because we had no
no
windows,
windows, right?
no
It's
windows, and it
actually
was
not
freezing
good
cold
for
in
your
there because
health.
it was like a computer lab.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
were like, you need the aircon on because
yeah.
there's so many like big
Same.
computers in there. I was like, oh my god, come on.
Same. And literally, like before, we could only analyze the data in the lab. Whereas normally, if you could analyze it at your desk, you can at least have a coffee and snacks. Whereas you just have to sit there. Okay, you can sit with the light on, but like, it's just like, what is the point of this? Just get new software. And we've asked for it, and they're like, oh, but not that many people use it. It's going to cost us thousands of pounds to just make do. And it's like, okay. So I get the frustration, but what can you do? Like, if you haven't got 167 hours, surely your PI is aware of that and would literally be like, actually, we think the time, like the cost effectiveness,
I mean,
would be
ultimately, when you
worthwhile.
think about it, like the money that they're going to have to use to buy this software, like at the end of the day, it's not actually your PI's money. It's maybe their funding, but it's not actually their money. So, like, maybe they just haven't had anyone bring a good enough case to them as to why it needs to be upgraded. Like, does the PI misunderstand why you want this software upgrading, or is he just like for another reason? Like, if I was you, I would actually get together like a good case as to why you feel like this should be upgraded, talk to other people in the lab and find out who else it would benefit, and then take that to your supervisor.
But also, how can a PI it get to a shouting match? Like, that's really inappropriate. Obviously, it says
Yeah.
like in asterisk alleged, but
I have actually seen one of my PIs who I would never say in my life I would ever like, I'd never expected to see him in an argument, but because one of the other students in the lab approached him very like aggressively and very like it was bizarre, he started reacting obviously. So like I think that's what I'm saying, like I think sometimes if you approach someone in like not the correct way, then you might get a response
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I also think like it's not really your if you're a PhD student, it's not really your responsibility to like, I don't know, put in a grant or like apply for a grant for like a new piece of equipment and stuff. But
Yeah.
that is the responsibility of like postdocs and PIs. So if you can like sell like I don't know, sell it to your PI in a way
Exactly.
that's like appropriate, like Liv said, then like they'll probably be more inclined to like maybe put in a grant or put some grant money towards buying the new software. So I feel like you definitely need to have your reasons.
Exactly.
And I feel like as well, supervisors or PIs can sometimes be like so like just not involved in the like workings of a lab and like what's actually happening on the ground. So if you're like give him that or her that perspective of no, like this will mean I have to do 167 hours instead of 10,
Right.
and
And
it'll
if I
mean
don't
that,
have to do this, this is what else I could do with my time.
yeah,
yeah.
You know, like I would like to spend these 160 hours doing XYZ.
Yeah. Or saying to the PI, like, if you have literally 10 minutes to just sit with me so I can show you the time it takes to do the analysis, because it takes approximately 20 minutes, but the reasons why, and they actually sit and see like how slow it is. And then that could also justify like, maybe because it's just abstract, like Taz is saying, that they're not used to it, they're not doing the hands-on work, they just can't, they just think, oh, it's fine. Like they might think you're over exaggerating about the time it takes. But if you actually say like, have you got 5-10 minutes, just sit with me so I can show you how this software works, the bugging that's going on, like it's just not working, and then see what happens, I guess. But
also if it's inaccurate, like it's going to affect things downstream, and then you're going to have to repeat things and stuff like that, and you might not get like reproducible results if it's like inaccurate software. So it's in everybody's best interest to like get a better software, and then you're not going to have to repeat stuff or like take as long as to do stuff. So you got to sell the case.
Okay,
exactly.
So if we build up a case, what have we
Yes,
got in our case? We've got the 167 hours could be used to do better things, other things.
Yeah, instead of spending money redoing the experiments, we could just spend a little bit more to upgrade this software, and it would also help other people.
Yeah, and related to that as well, like obviously manpower costs money as well. So if you're spending 160 hours doing this, then you're wasting manpower, like salary, wages, on doing something that could take no time at all, or less time at least.
Well, you also no longer have to worry about inaccurate results because you have like an up-to-date software that's reliable, and then you won't have to like, you know, because if you're aware of this, other people in your field are going to be aware of it. So when you go to submit that paper, reviewers are going to say, hey, how have you looked into this, or how are you ensuring that it's accurate? So it saves you time down the line there as well. And I'm going to use manipulative language as well. Like, I'm going to go in and be like, I know you really value work-life balance, so like I know you're going to be really happy to help me with this kind of thing. That's what I'm going to do.
What if they're like a toxic PI anyway who's never valued work-life balance? What are you saying?
Well, I'm going to tell them, like, you know, I know you appreciate the need. I know you appreciate the need for work-life balance. So I've got something that I really want to discuss with you today, and blah, blah, blah. I'm really excited for how this is going to give me more time, and that's how I'm going to approach it. Manipulative language.
That's that psychology A-level coming into play.
What can I say?
Okay, cool. So I think, build your case, and you've got a pretty good case, and fingers crossed you can get this new software, because I'm not going to lie, I would not do the 167 hours.
Yeah, we're rooting for you. Please send us an update and let us know if you manage to convince him or not. I hope he doesn't shout at you or her. I hope he or she doesn't shout at you.
Give them this podcast to listen to. No, joking, we don't want to get in trouble.
No, don't.
Okay, well, anyway, that is the end of the laboratory for this week's episode. Thank you so much to our listener for sending in your story, and we are so sorry that you are having difficulties in the lab. Hopefully anything that we've said, you can kind of use it and it's helpful. But that concludes today's episode.
And to any of our other listeners, if you have a dilemma or anything that you want us to react to or give our advice on, then you guys know where to find the laboratory. It's in our links page on our Instagram bio, or you can email us. However, we will say that this is the last listener story that we are going to be reading out on this season. So anything that you send in, we'll be reacting to next season, because next week for the finale episode of season 2, we have a very exciting little thing that we're going to do on our gossip section. New additions. Like, as we've discovered, us three are actually kind of thick. I feel like, especially me, like I say the dumbest things sometimes because I actually don't think before words come out of my mouth. But we've decided that we are actually going to put our knowledge to the test with a general kind of like science quiz at the end of next week's episode. And it's going to be super fun because you guys are also going to be able to get involved, because obviously you're going to hear all of the questions. So yeah, I'm very excited to see who wins this science quiz, because I low-key want it to be me, because I think everyone thinks I'm a bit thick after this season. So let's see.
We might be pleasantly surprised. I don't have much hope for myself, to be honest. But guys,
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I have a track record of winning quizzes. I'm not gonna lie. I win this family Christmas quiz every single year. So if I don't win it, and I'm a sore loser, so if I don't win it, I'm gonna be upset.
I have no like memory recall, so sometimes I'll know it like a day later, and then I'm like, why didn't I say that? Because I actually do know it.
Yeah,
I just think I struggle.
Me. That is me. I can relate to that.
But then stuff like, if you ask me, name some parts of the Krebs cycle, like I've got no idea. So
noted. That would be one of my questions.
So yeah, this could be interesting. So looking forward to that, and we will see you all next week.
See you guys next week.
Thanks. Bye. You've been listening to the So Cultured podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Make sure you listen in next week for more science and tech updates and the hottest laboratory.
You can stay up to date with us in between episodes by following us on Instagram and X at SoCulturedPodcast.
See you back here, same time next week.